Please. You don't live here. What are you doing in this neighborhood?
None of your business, ma'am. Please step back.
You're casing houses or even dealing drugs. I'm calling the police right now.
You really don't want to do
Too
that.
late. You're not leaving until officers
You just
get here.
interfere with a federal operation. You're under arrest.
The footage begins without warning. An elevated HD security camera mounted on the corner of a quiet, high-end suburban home. Peaceful, silent, a perfect neighborhood snapshot. Until a woman storms into frame. A white HOA board member, furious, shaking, phone recording, marches straight toward a black man standing beside an unmarked van. He isn't arguing, he isn't moving, he's just watching a house across the street, calm, focused, hands visible. But to her, that's enough. She blocks in his vehicle with her SUV, accuses him of casing houses, dealing drugs, and trespassing, demands he leave, demands he explain himself, demands control of a situation she doesn't understand. And when he tries to ignore her, she calls 911. What she doesn't know, what the camera captures perfectly, is that he's a plainclothes FBI agent conducting active surveillance on a federal target, and her interference doesn't just ruin his operation, it turns her into a federal suspect. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this need to be heard. The security camera sits 20 feet above ground level, mounted beneath the eave of a corner house in the Brookside Estates subdivision. It's a Wednesday afternoon in early October. The sun is bright, the streets are quiet, children's bikes lean against garage doors, someone's sprinkler system runs in the distance. Everything is exactly as it should be in an upscale suburban neighborhood where nothing bad ever happens. Then Patricia Carmichael enters the frame. She's 53 years old, vice president of the Brookside Homeowners Association, and she's walking with purpose. Her phone is already up, camera recording, her free hand gesturing as she marches toward the unmarked cargo van, parked 3 houses down from her own. Next to the van stands a black man, mid-30s, wearing jeans, a gray hoodie, and running shoes. Nothing flashy, nothing threatening. He's leaning against the passenger door, eyes fixed on a house across the street. His posture is relaxed but attentive, the kind of stance someone takes when they're waiting for something specific. His name is Derek Mills. He's a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and he's been watching that house for 3 hours because the man who lives there is a person of interest in a multi-state fraud investigation involving stolen identities and wire transfers totaling over $2 million. But Patricia doesn't know that. All she knows is that a black man she doesn't recognize is standing on her street, and that makes him suspicious. The security camera captures her approach from the perfect angle. She comes at him from the side, phone raised high to record his face. Her voice is loud enough to carry across the street. "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" Derek doesn't turn immediately. He's trained not to break surveillance unless absolutely necessary. His eyes stay on the target house, just waiting for someone. Waiting for who? Patricia steps closer, invading his space. "I've lived in this neighborhood for 12 years. I know every single resident. Who are you waiting for?" "A friend." "What friend? What's the address?" Derek finally turns to look at her. His expression is neutral, calm, professional. "Ma'am, I'm not causing any trouble. I'm just waiting. You've been here for hours. I've seen you. You keep staring at that house." She points across the street. "Are you casing it? Are you planning to rob them?" "No, ma'am." "Then what are you doing?" "Like I said, waiting for someone." Patricia's voice rises. "That's not an answer. I want to know exactly what you're doing on this street. You're making people nervous." "I'm standing next to my vehicle. That's not illegal." "It is if you're trespassing." "Public street, public parking. No trespassing involved." Patricia circles around to the back of the van, taking video of the license plate. Then she comes back to the front, getting closer to Derek. "What's in the van?" "Personal property." "Show me." "No." "If you don't show me, I'm calling the police." Derek takes a slow breath. This is the exact scenario they train you to avoid in the academy: civilian interference during active surveillance. He needs her to leave without revealing his identity, without causing a scene, and without alerting the target across the street that something unusual is happening. Ma'am, I need you to step back and go about your day. I'm not going anywhere. You're going to explain yourself right now, or I'm getting you removed from this neighborhood. Why do people who lack authority act the fastest to claim it?
Patricia walks back to her white Lexus SUV parked 20 feet behind the van. Derek watches her, hoping she's leaving, but instead of driving away, she repositions the vehicle. She backs up, turns, and angles the SUV directly behind the van, blocking it in completely. The security camera captures the entire maneuver. There's no ambiguity. This is intentional. This is entrapment. Patricia gets out and walks back to Derek. You're not going anywhere until the police verify who you are and what you're doing here. Derek's jaw tightens. His surveillance operation is now compromised. The target might look out the window and see this confrontation, might realize something is off, might decide to run. 3 weeks of careful preparation could collapse in minutes because an HOA board member decided to play cop. Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle. I don't need to do anything. This is my neighborhood. I have a responsibility to keep it safe. You're interfering. Interfering with what? You won't even tell me what you're doing. I don't owe you an explanation. Yes, you do. I'm on the HOA board. I have authority here. HOA authority doesn't extend to public streets. Patricia pulls out her phone again, this time opening the dial pad. We'll see what the police say about that. Derek realizes what's happening. She's going to call 911. She's going to report a suspicious person. Officers will respond. His cover will be blown. The entire operation will fall apart. He tries one more time. Ma'am, please, you're making a mistake. Move your vehicle and go home. Are you threatening me? I'm asking you to leave. No, I'm calling the police. She dials. The call connects. The security camera audio picks up every word she says. Yes, I need to report a suspicious person, a black male in an unmarked van. He's been sitting on Oakmont Drive for hours, staring at houses. He won't identify himself. He won't tell me what he's doing. I think he's casing homes for burglaries or possibly dealing drugs. He's aggressive and refusing to leave. Derek closes his eyes briefly. Everything she just said is false. He's not aggressive. He's not refusing to leave. She's physically blocking him. He's not dealing drugs or casing houses, but dispatch doesn't know that. They're hearing a white woman report a threatening black man, and they're going to respond with urgency. Yes, I'll stay on the line. Oakmont Drive, between Cedar and Maple. White van, no markings. Yes, I'm safe right now, but I don't know what he might do. Derek pulls out his phone. He sends a quick text to his field supervisor. Civilian interference, blown cover, need extraction protocol. The response comes back in seconds. ETA 4 minutes, hold position. 4 minutes. He needs to keep this woman calm for 4 minutes without revealing his identity, without escalating the situation, and without letting the surveillance target realize federal agents are watching him. Patricia ends the 911 call. The police are on the way. You can explain yourself to them. I will. You're in a lot of trouble. Derek doesn't respond. He just stands there, hands visible, posture non-threatening, waiting for the inevitable. Patricia isn't done. She steps even closer, phone camera inches from his face. I know what you are. I know exactly what you're doing here. Do you? Drug dealer, that's what you are. That's why you won't show me what's in the van. I'm not a drug dealer. Then what are you? Derek makes a decision. The operation is already compromised. The target has probably seen the commotion by now. There's no point in maintaining cover. He reaches slowly into his jacket pocket and pulls out a leather credential case. He opens it and holds it up in front of Patricia's phone camera. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent, Gold Shield, Department of Justice seal, his photo, his name. Federal Agent, you need to step away, now. Patricia stares at the badge. Her expression doesn't change. No shock, no embarrassment, just defiance. That's fake. It's not fake. You bought that on Amazon. Anyone can get one of those. This is an official federal credential. You can verify it when the police arrive. I don't believe you. Real FBI agents don't sit in vans watching houses. Yes, they do. It's called surveillance, and you just interfered with an active federal investigation. I don't care what you claim to be. You're leaving this neighborhood. What happens when someone is so committed to the lie they ignore the truth in their hands?
Sirens approach from the north. 2 patrol cars turn onto Oakmont Drive and stop in the middle of the street. 4 officers exit, hands near their weapons, scanning the scene. They see Patricia standing close to a black man. They see her SUV blocking the van. They see her phone recording. Patricia rushes toward them immediately. "Officers, thank God you're here. That man has been stalking this neighborhood. He won't identify himself. He's got a van full of who knows what. I tried to get him to leave, and he threatened me." The officers approach cautiously. The senior officer, a veteran named Lieutenant Raymond Cross, takes the lead. "Sir, can you tell me what's going on?" Derek keeps his hands visible. "Lieutenant, I'm a federal agent. I have credentials in my left inside jacket pocket. I'm reaching for them now." Cross nods, slowly. Derek retrieves the credential case again and hands it to Cross. The lieutenant examines it carefully, checks the holographic seal, the microprinting, the photograph, the weight and texture of the leather. His expression shifts immediately. "You're FBI?" "Yes, sir." "What are you doing here?" "Active surveillance. I can't provide details, but I've been watching a target in this neighborhood for the past 3 hours. This woman blocked my vehicle and called 911, compromising my operation." Cross looks at Patricia, then at the SUV blocking the van, then back at Derek's credentials. He hands them back. "Agent Mills, I apologize for the response. We had a report of a suspicious person." "I understand. The report was false, but you had to respond." Cross turns to Patricia. "Ma'am, did you physically block his vehicle?" "He was suspicious. He wouldn't tell me what he was doing." "He's a federal agent." "He says that. I don't believe him." "I've verified his credentials. They're legitimate." "Anyone can fake those." Cross's patience is thinning. "Ma'am, I've been a police officer for 19 years. I know what federal credentials look like. These are real." Before Patricia can respond, a black Chevrolet Suburban turns onto the street and parks behind the patrol cars. A man in tactical plainclothes steps out. He's wearing an FBI field jacket, a radio on his hip, and a very serious expression. This is Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Trent, Derek's field supervisor. Trent approaches quickly. His first words cut through the tension. "Why is my agent surrounded by patrol cars?" Cross steps forward. "Sir, we responded to a 911 call. The situation's been clarified." Trent looks at Patricia. "Who called?" "I did," Patricia says. "He was acting suspicious. He was conducting federal surveillance." Trent's voice is flat, controlled, but there's an edge underneath. "Who are you?" "I'm on the HOA board. I have a right to know who's in my neighborhood." "No, you don't. Not when it interferes with federal operations." Trent pulls out his own credentials. "Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Trent, FBI. Your actions in the last hour have compromised an active investigation into wire fraud and identity theft. You blocked a federal agent, you filed a false report, and you're still interfering." Patricia's voice rises, defensive now. "I didn't know he was FBI. He showed you his badge. I thought it was fake." "Then you should have waited for police to verify it, instead of blocking him in and making false accusations." Trent turns to Cross. "Lieutenant, we're going to need footage from that security camera." He points to the corner house. "Everything from the last 4 hours." Cross nods. "We can request that." "Not a request. Federal seizure under Title 18.
Trent walks toward the house with the camera. The two junior agents who arrived with him follow. Patricia watches, her confidence finally cracking. You can't just take people's property. Yes, we can. It's evidence of obstruction. Trent knocks on the door of the corner house. An elderly man answers, confused. Trent shows credentials, explains the situation, and within 5 minutes the agents are downloading the security footage onto an encrypted drive. The footage shows everything. Patricia's approach, her accusations, her blocking the van, her 911 call with false claims, her refusal to accept Derek's credentials, every single action documented in high definition. At what point does ignorance become a federal crime?
Trent returns to the street where Patricia is now arguing with Lieutenant Cross. "I was protecting my neighborhood. How was I supposed to know?" "You were supposed to listen," Cross says. "He identified himself. You called him a liar." Trent interrupts. "Ma'am, we've reviewed the footage. You blocked a federal agent's vehicle. You filed a false emergency report. You interfered with an active federal investigation. Those are federal crimes." Patricia's face goes pale. "I was just being cautious." "You were being racially biased. If my agent had been white, would you have blocked him in and called 911? "That's not fair." "Answer the question." Patricia doesn't answer. Trent continues. "Your interference caused us to relocate surveillance. We lost visual on the target for 45 minutes. He may have seen this commotion and realized we're watching. If he runs, if evidence is destroyed, that's on you." "I didn't mean—" "Intent doesn't matter. Impact does." Trent signals to one of his agents. "Contact the U.S. Attorney's Office. I want charging recommendations by end of day." Patricia's voice cracks. "You're arresting me?" "Not yet, but you're under federal investigation for obstruction. I strongly suggest you contact a lawyer." Lieutenant Cross steps in. "Agent Trent, we can handle this through local charges if—" "No, this is federal jurisdiction. She interfered with a federal operation. That's our case." Cross nods slowly. He understands. This isn't about local ordinances or HOA disputes. This is about protecting federal law enforcement from civilian interference based on racial suspicion. Patricia starts backing away toward her SUV. "I'm leaving." "No, you're not." Trent blocks her path. "We need your statement. We need your phone. We need everything you recorded." "You can't have my phone." "Yes, we can. It's evidence. You used it to file a false report and to record a federal agent during an active operation. Hand it over or we'll seize it with a warrant within the hour." Patricia clutches her phone. "This is insane. I'm being treated like a criminal for calling 911. "You are a criminal. You obstructed a federal investigation." Trent turns to Cross. "Lieutenant, can you escort her to the station? We'll need her processed for obstruction and false reporting." Cross hesitates. He's uncomfortable with how fast this is escalating, but he's also seen the footage. He knows Patricia blocked the van deliberately. He knows she made false accusations. He knows she refused to accept valid credentials. "Ma'am, you need to come with me." Patricia looks around desperately. Neighbors are watching from windows and porches. Some are recording on their phones. The entire street has witnessed this confrontation. The vice president of the HOA, the woman who enforces every rule and reports every violation, is about to be arrested in front of everyone she's spent years judging. "You can't do this to me." "We can and we are." Trent's voice is final. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." "I'm on the HOA board." "That doesn't mean anything to me." Patricia's voice breaks into a scream. "This is discrimination. You're targeting me because I called you out." "We're targeting you because you broke federal law." Trent nods to Cross, who steps forward with handcuffs. Patricia tries to pull away, but Cross is professional and firm. He secures her wrists behind her back while reading her rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The street is dead silent, except for Patricia's protests. The security camera on the corner house captures it all.
The HOA board member who controlled this neighborhood for over a decade, who reported violations and enforced rules with zealous authority, is about to be arrested in front of everyone she spent years judging. How many times has this happened without cameras, Roran?
The federal charges come within 72 hours. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District reviews the case and decides prosecution is warranted. Patricia Carmichael is formally charged with obstruction of a federal investigation under 18 U.S.C. Section 1505, making a false statement to federal law enforcement under 18 U.S.C. Section 1000, interference with a federal officer under 18 U.S.C. Section 111. The charges carry a combined maximum sentence of 15 years in federal prison, though her attorney immediately begins negotiating a plea deal. The FBI issues a brief public statement. A civilian obstructed an active federal surveillance operation. Federal charges have been filed. The investigation into the original target continues. No names, no details, just the facts. The Brookside Homeowners Association holds an emergency board meeting. Patricia is removed from her position immediately. The board releases a statement distancing themselves from her actions and emphasizing that her behavior does not reflect the values of the community. Several residents file civil complaints against her, claiming her pattern of targeting people of color in the neighborhood created a hostile environment. Her attorney files motions to dismiss, but the security footage from that day becomes Exhibit A in multiple lawsuits. Derek Mills's surveillance operation is relocated. The target, the fraud suspect, noticed the commotion that day and became cautious, but he didn't run. FBI agents re-established surveillance from a different location. 2 weeks later, they executed a warrant and arrested him with sufficient evidence to secure conviction. The case proceeded successfully, but the timeline was delayed because of Patricia's interference. In her initial statement to investigators, Patricia insists she was protecting her neighborhood and doing what any concerned citizen would do. She never apologizes. She never acknowledges that her suspicion was racially motivated. She maintains that Derek looked suspicious, that his credentials looked fake, that her actions were justified. The security footage tells a different story. It shows a black man standing quietly. It shows a white woman approaching aggressively. It shows her blocking him in. It shows her refusing to accept his badge. It shows her making false claims to 911. It shows everything. If the badge had belonged to anyone else, would she have stopped? The security camera footage becomes evidence in federal court. It's entered into the record, time-stamped, authenticated, and played to the judge during Patricia's arraignment. The footage shows exactly what happened, without narration, without spin, without interpretation, just facts. Patricia eventually accepts a plea deal. She pleads guilty to 1 count of obstruction in exchange for the other charges being dropped. She's sentenced to 18 months probation, 300 hours of community service, and a $25,000 fine. She's also permanently barred from serving on any HOA board or holding any position of authority in community governance. The judge's statement at sentencing is pointed. You saw a black man in your neighborhood and assumed criminal activity. You ignored his credentials, you blocked his vehicle, you filed false reports, and you jeopardized a federal investigation. Your actions were not protective, they were prejudiced. This court cannot and will not tolerate civilian interference with law enforcement based on racial bias. Derek Mills continues his work with the FBI. Colleagues say the incident didn't shake him. He's experienced racial profiling before, both as a civilian and as an agent. But it reinforced why documentation matters, why body cameras matter, why security footage matters. Because without that video evidence, Patricia's version of events might have been the one that prevailed. The Brookside neighborhood remains quiet.
The security camera on the corner house still records. Children still ride bikes. Sprinklers still run. But everyone who lives there now knows what happened on Oakmont Drive that October afternoon. They know that entitlement and authority are not the same thing. They know that suspicion without evidence is just bias. They know that interfering with law enforcement carries consequences. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. This story matters because Patricia Carmichael had no legal authority. She wasn't a police officer. She wasn't security. She was just a woman on an HOA board who saw a black man in her neighborhood and decided he didn't belong. She didn't call the police because Derek was doing anything illegal. She called because he was black, because he was unfamiliar, because she had convinced herself that her comfort mattered more than his rights. And when he showed her a federal badge, proof of his authority, proof of his legitimacy, she called it fake. She refused to believe that a black man could be an FBI agent. She refused to accept that her suspicion was wrong. That refusal didn't just embarrass her, it made her a federal criminal. The security camera captured everything: the aggression, the blockade, the false accusations, the interference. And because of that footage, Patricia couldn't claim misunderstanding. She couldn't claim confusion. The evidence was irrefutable. Thanks for watching this story all the way through. If this opened your eyes to how racial bias can escalate into federal crimes, share it. If it made you think about the power of documentation, drop a comment. Do you think her sentence was appropriate, or should civilian interference with federal operations carry harsher penalties? See you in the next one.
I stopped you because I smell weed. Step out of the car.
There's no weed. I'm on duty. Let me explain.
Don't argue with me. I'll arrest you right now.
I'm showing you my credentials.
Credentials? Do you even know who I am?
You're threatening a federal ATF agent on your own body cam.
The body cam snaps on mid-approach. No introduction, no breathing room. Just the rookie storming up to a black driver sitting calmly with both hands on the wheel. No weaving, no suspicious movements, no smell. But the rookie doesn't even blink before escalating. He leans into the window like he's already decided the ending, voice raised, shoulders squared, the kind of posture that says, "I'm in charge no matter what I see." Then he drops the lie that starts everything. "I smell weed." The driver's eyes widen, hurt, disbelief, something deeper. He tries to explain, tries to stay calm, but the rookie interrupts, threatens, pushes the stop toward arrest. And the moment the driver reaches slowly, carefully, and reveals a gold federal badge, the rookie still doesn't back down. That refusal didn't just end his job, it triggered federal sanctions, statewide embarrassment, and a disciplinary review that shook the entire department. But what made this rookie so confident he could lie his way through a traffic stop? And how did his own body cam become the proof that destroyed him? Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be heard. The body cam footage begins at 4:37 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon in suburban Atlanta. The timestamp runs in the bottom corner. The audio is clean. Traffic hums in the background. The camera bounces slightly with each step as Officer Tyler Brennan approaches a dark blue sedan pulled over on the shoulder of Route 285. Brennan is 24 years old. He graduated from the police academy 11 months ago. This is his first solo patrol assignment after finishing his probationary ride-along period. He's eager, too eager, the kind of eager that mistakes aggression for confidence. The sedan is clean, no damage, current tags, no reason for the stop beyond a rolling stop at a yellow light 3 blocks back, a minor infraction that most officers would handle with a warning. But Brennan wants an arrest. He wants to prove himself. He wants to show his training officer and his shift supervisor that he can handle real police work. The driver sits perfectly still, both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. His window is already down. He's wearing a polo shirt and slacks. Professional, composed.
He looks tired, like someone at the end of a long shift who just wants to get home. Brennan reaches the window and immediately plants himself too close, invading space, establishing dominance. "Afternoon, sir. Where you headin'?" His tone isn't conversational. It's interrogational. The driver keeps his hands visible. "Just got off work, officer, trying to get home." "You were in a hurry back there. Ran that light pretty quick." "It was yellow when I entered the intersection. I didn't run a red." Brennan's jaw tightens. He doesn't like being corrected. "Step out of the vehicle." "For a yellow light?" "I said step out." The driver stays calm. His voice is measured, careful. "Officer, can you tell me why you're asking me to exit the vehicle? I'm happy to provide my license and registration." Brennan leans in closer. The body cam captures his face now. The tight expression, the rigid posture. "I smell weed." The driver's expression changes. Not guilt, not panic. Something worse. Disappointment. Like he's heard this line before. Like he knows exactly where this is going. "There's no marijuana in this car. I can smell it from here." "Officer, I don't smoke. I don't have any drugs. You're mistaken." Brennan straightens up, hand moving to his belt. "Sir, I'm detecting the odor of marijuana coming from your vehicle. That gives me probable cause to search. Now step out or I'm going to remove you." The body cam shows the interior of the car through the open window. Clean seats, no visible paraphernalia, no smoke, no smell. Just a briefcase on the passenger seat and a gym bag in the back. The driver takes a slow breath. "I need you to understand something. I'm on duty right now. I'm heading home from an active assignment. There's no marijuana in this vehicle because I'm a federal agent." Brennan scoffs. Actually scoffs. The audio picks it up clearly. "Sure you are." "I'm serious. I have my credentials. I'm reaching for them now." Do you think the officer planned to escalate from the second he walked up?
The driver moves with exaggerated slowness. His right hand leaves the steering wheel. He reaches toward his hip. The body cam captures every inch of movement. There's nothing fast, nothing threatening, nothing that could be misinterpreted. He pulls out a leather credential wallet and holds it up in his open palm, facing Brennan. The badge catches the afternoon sunlight. Gold, official, unmistakable. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Special Agent, Department of Justice seal. Photograph. Name, Julian Carter. Brennan stares at it for 3 full seconds. The body cam records his face. There's no surprise, no apology forming, just irritation. "I don't give a damn who you are," Brennan says. His voice is louder now, more aggressive. "You still ran that light, and I still smell weed." Julian's eyes narrow. "Officer Brennan, I showed you federal credentials. You're required to verify them before proceeding." "I don't need to verify anything. I've got probable cause." "You don't have probable cause. You fabricated it, and now you're interfering with a federal agent on duty." Brennan leans back into the window. "You got a smart mouth on you. That's going to get you arrested real quick." "I'm not being disrespectful. I'm explaining the law." "I know the law." "Then you know you need to call your supervisor and verify my credentials." "What I know is you're being non-compliant. Now get out of the car before I drag you out." Julian doesn't move. His hands return to the steering wheel. His voice stays level, but there's an edge now, real frustration breaking through professional control. "Officer, you are making a mistake, a career-ending mistake, right now." Brennan smirks. The body cam catches it, a genuine smirk, like this is all a game. "Everybody thinks there's somebody. I showed you a federal badge. Could be fake. It's not fake. Call it in. I'll call it in after I search your vehicle. You don't have grounds to search my vehicle. I told you, I smell marijuana. There is no marijuana. The only thing you're going to accomplish here is interference with a federal investigation." Brennan reaches for his radio. He's done talking. He's made his decision. He's going to prove that this driver, badge or no badge, doesn't get to tell him what to do. He keys the radio.
Dispatch, I need backup at Route 285 southbound, mile marker 47. I've got a suspected narcotics situation and a non-compliant driver. The Bodycam audio picks up Julian's response, quiet but firm. You're lying to dispatch right now. There are no narcotics. I'm not non-compliant. I'm sitting still with my hands visible. Brennan ignores him. Julian tries one more time. Officer Brennan, I am Special Agent Julian Carter with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I am currently on duty returning from an active surveillance operation. You are now interfering with federal law enforcement operations. I am asking you one final time to verify my credentials and call your supervisor. Save it for the judge. What should an officer do the moment a federal badge is shown?
Brennan opens the driver's door. Julian doesn't resist, but he doesn't help either. He sits perfectly still, waiting for the inevitable. Step out, now. Julian unbuckles slowly. I'm complying under protest. This stop is unlawful. Your probable cause is fabricated, and you're about to escalate a situation that should have ended 3 minutes ago. Brennan grabs Julian's arm and pulls him from the vehicle. Not gently, not professionally. A yank that forces Julian to stumble slightly as he exits. Turn around, hands behind your back. You're arresting me? I'm detaining you. On what grounds? Probable cause and obstruction. I haven't obstructed anything. I've answered your questions. I've provided identification. I've explained my status. You're the one refusing to follow procedure. Brennan pulls out handcuffs. The metallic clink is loud on the Bodycam audio. He reaches for Julian's wrist. Then sirens approach, backup arriving. A patrol car pulls up behind Brennan's cruiser. The driver's door opens and a sergeant steps out. Sergeant Paul Hendricks is 41 years old, 19 years on the force, and he's seen enough bad stops to recognize one from 50 feet away. He walks up quickly, taking in the scene. Black driver, white rookie, federal credentials visible on the roof of the sedan where Julian set them when Brennan ordered him out. Handcuffs in Brennan's hand. Brennan, what's going on? Suspected narcotics, Sarge. Driver's being difficult. Hendricks looks at Julian, then at the credentials on the car roof. He picks them up, studies them. His expression changes instantly. These are ATF credentials. He could be impersonating. Did you call them in? Silence. Brennan, did you verify these credentials? I was about to search the vehicle first. That's not the procedure. Hendricks turns to Julian. Sir, are you Special Agent Carter? Yes. Are you currently on duty? Yes. I was returning from a surveillance operation in Marietta. Your officer stopped me for a yellow light violation and then claimed to smell marijuana that doesn't exist. Hendricks looks at Brennan. You smelled weed? Yes, Sarge. Show me. Brennan walks to the open driver's door. He leans in. Hendricks follows. The Bodycam still picks up the audio. There's no marijuana in that car. I smelled it, Sarge. No, you didn't, and you just lied to me on Bodycam. I'm telling you, he showed you federal credentials. What did you do? He was being uncooperative. He was sitting still with his hands on the wheel. I watched your footage. You escalated from the first second. I had probable cause. You had nothing, and now you've interfered with a federal agent on active duty. Hendricks pulls out his radio. Dispatch, cancel that backup call. We're code 4. When you watch the supervisor's face change, what do you think was going through his mind? Hendricks walks back to Julian. Agent Carter, I apologize for this situation. Can you tell me what operation you're returning from? Julian hesitates. He looks at Brennan, then back at Hendricks. I can't discuss operational details, but I can tell you that I was on duty, in transit, when your officer stopped me without valid cause and then fabricated probable cause to justify a search. Understood. Do you need to report this to your chain of command? I'm required to. Any interference with ATF operations gets documented and reported to the Justice Department. Hendricks nods slowly. He knows what that means. Federal complaint, internal investigation, media attention, department scrutiny, all because a rookie couldn't admit he made a bad stop.
Julian pulls out his phone and steps away. He makes a call. The body cam audio is too distant to pick up the conversation, but his body language is calm, professional. He's reporting facts, not filing a complaint out of anger, just doing his job. Hendricks walks back to Brennan. "You're done for the day. Get in your cruiser." "Sarge, I was just—" "Cruiser, now." Brennan walks to his patrol car. He gets in the driver's seat. The body cam is still recording. He sits there, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing hard. He's starting to understand, starting to realize that this isn't going away, that the badge was real, that the federal agent he just tried to arrest is about to file paperwork that will end his career. He mutters to himself, barely audible on the audio. "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?" But he did know. The moment Julian showed him credentials, he knew. He just didn't care. He thought his authority was more important than verification. He thought he could bully his way through the stop. He thought a black driver wouldn't really be a federal agent. He was wrong. Julian finishes his call and walks back to Hendricks. "My supervisor is filing an official interference report. ATF will be contacting your department within the hour." "I understand. Again, I apologize." "I appreciate that, Sergeant, but this goes beyond an apology. Your officer lied about probable cause. He refused to verify federal credentials. He physically removed me from my vehicle and attempted to detain me. All of that is on his body cam. This isn't going away." "I know." Julian gets back in his sedan. He starts the engine. Hendricks hands him his credentials through the window. "Drive safe, Agent Carter." Julian nods and pulls away. The body cam in Brennan's cruiser watches him leave. Do you think the rookie really didn't know, or was he hoping intimidation would work? By 6 p.m., ATF Regional Director Michelle Torres has filed a formal interference complaint with the Atlanta Police Department. The complaint is detailed: timestamp references, body cam footage citations, specific violations of federal law and departmental policy. The complaint alleges fabrication of probable cause, failure to verify federal credentials, unlawful detention of a federal agent on active duty, interference with federal law enforcement operations, use of excessive authority without justification. By 8 p.m., the chief of police has watched Brennan's body cam footage 3 times. He's consulted with the city attorney. He's spoken with the mayor. The decision is unanimous. Brennan is suspended immediately pending investigation. By Monday morning, Internal Affairs has opened a formal case. They interview Brennan. He sticks to his story. He smelled marijuana. He had probable cause. The driver was uncooperative. He didn't realize the credentials were real. Then they play the body cam footage, all of it, every second. The lie about smelling weed, the refusal to verify credentials, the escalation despite Julian's calm cooperation, the dismissal of a federal badge, the smirk, the threat of arrest. Brennan has no defense. The footage destroys every claim he makes. The Internal Affairs finding is unambiguous. Officer Tyler Brennan violated department policy, state law, and federal law. He fabricated probable cause. He failed to follow procedure regarding credential verification. He interfered with a federal agent. He demonstrated bias, poor judgment, and a fundamental misunderstanding of his authority. Recommendation: immediate termination. The recommendation is approved within 24 hours. Brennan is fired. 11 months on the job, 1 traffic stop, 1 lie. Career over. But it doesn't end there. The Georgia Peace Officers Standards and Training Council reviews the case. They determine that Brennan's conduct warrants decertification. He loses his law enforcement certification. He cannot work as a police officer anywhere in Georgia, ever.
The Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility adds Brennan to a federal sanctions list. He's barred from any position that involves interaction with federal law enforcement. No joint task forces, no federal contracts, no security work involving federal facilities. The Atlanta Police Department releases a brief statement. Officer Brennan's employment has been terminated following an internal investigation. The officer's actions did not meet our standards or reflect the values of this department. They don't mention the body cam footage. They don't mention Julian. They don't provide details. But the message is clear. We don't protect officers who lie. Julian Carter's ATF operation was delayed by 90 minutes. Surveillance was compromised. A suspect they'd been tracking for 3 weeks became suspicious and went dark. The case eventually closed successfully, but the delay created complications that could have been avoided, all because a rookie cop couldn't admit he made a bad stop. If the body cam didn't exist, how differently would this story have ended?
The body cam footage became required viewing at the Atlanta Police Academy. New recruits watch it during their constitutional law section. They watch Brennan approach with aggression. They watch him fabricate probable cause. They watch him refuse to verify credentials. They watch him destroy his own career in real time. The instructors pause the video at key moments. What should he have done here? When should he have called his supervisor? What does the law require when federal credentials are presented? The answers are obvious to everyone watching. Verify, de-escalate, follow procedure, respect credentials, admit mistakes. But Brennan didn't do any of that. He committed to the lie. He doubled down on the aggression. He refused to acknowledge that he might be wrong. And it cost him everything. This story matters because Tyler Brennan isn't unique. Across the country, traffic stops escalate based on fabricated probable cause. "I smell weed" is a magic phrase that justifies searches without evidence. It's used disproportionately against black drivers. It's used by officers who want arrests more than they want justice. But most of those stops don't involve federal agents. Most of those drivers don't have badges to show. Most of those people can't file federal interference complaints or trigger Justice Department reviews. They just get searched, get detained, get arrested, and hope that someone, somewhere, will believe them when they say the officer lied. Julian Carter had every advantage. He had credentials, he had legal knowledge, he had federal backing, and even with all of that, Brennan still tried to arrest him. Think about everyone who doesn't have those protections. Everyone who gets stopped for smelling like weed when there's no weed. Everyone who gets pulled from their car and searched based on a lie. Everyone whose body cam footage gets buried or malfunctions or never gets reviewed. The body cam saved Julian's case. It proved the lie. It documented the escalation. It ended Brennan's career before he could ruin more lives. But how many stops happen every day without cameras? How many lies go unchallenged? How many Tyler Brennans are still out there fabricating probable cause and destroying lives one traffic stop at a time? Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Thanks for watching this all the way through. If this story opened your eyes to how easily a traffic stop can become a civil rights violation, share it. If it made you think about the power of body cam footage, drop a comment. Do you think termination was enough, or should there be criminal charges for fabricating probable cause? See you in the next one.
Step away from the door.
What
Hands
are
behind
you
your back.
doing? This is my home.
Yeah, sure it is. You people always say that. We need to search it.
You're making a serious mistake. You got a warrant?
I do whatever I want. Step out, lady.
Are you out of your mind? I'm a federal judge. Your career just ended on camera.
The morning air was still cool when Judge Maya Sterling stepped outside her front door. For more than 2 decades, she had shaped federal precedent, sentenced violent offenders, and enforced constitutional limits on law enforcement power. She believed in rules. She believed in order.
and she believed that no one, especially those with badges, was above the law. She was dressed casually, preparing for a simple morning walk, when a uniformed officer stepped onto her porch and told her to put her hands behind her back. What followed wasn't confusion, it wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a deliberate show of authority captured on Bodycam and her own doorbell camera that would unravel into one of the most expensive civil rights cases the city had ever faced. How does a federal judge prove she belongs in her own home? And what happens when unchecked power targets the wrong person? Stay with me, because this ends with accountability. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and if you're new here, hit that like and subscribe, because stories like this only matter if people actually see them. Judge Maya Sterling was born in 1973 in Baltimore. Her childhood was marked by economic instability and recurring encounters with law enforcement that shaped everything that followed. Her father had been stopped 17 times by police before turning 21. None of those stops resulted in charges. They were stops motivated by presence in particular neighborhoods, by the calculation that a black man moving through certain spaces required explanation and justification. Her mother, Dorothy Sterling, worked in the Baltimore school system as a guidance counselor. She had raised 4 children with a single philosophical mandate: learn the rules, master them, understand them, because the people enforcing the rules would not give you the benefit of the doubt. She had repeated this lesson to her children constantly, not as pessimism, as preparation. Maya Sterling had listened to her mother. She had internalized the lesson. She had studied relentlessly. She had graduated from Howard University with a degree in political science and a minor in constitutional law. She had been accepted to Yale Law School on a full scholarship. She had graduated in 1998, ranking in the top 5% of her class. But unlike her Yale classmates, who had taken positions at major law firms, commanding 6-figure salaries and managing corporate portfolios, Maya Sterling had chosen civil rights law deliberately, not tax law, not corporate law, not the lucrative paths that her peers had taken. She had chosen civil rights litigation because she had watched her father be stopped 17 times and had understood, even as a child, that the system required defenders, people who understood the rules, people who could enforce them. For 19 years, she had worked for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. She had prosecuted police misconduct cases with methodical precision. She had won 86% of her cases. She had testified before Congress about racial bias in law enforcement. She had written the legal brief that changed how federal courts evaluated qualified immunity doctrine, a decision that had affected thousands of cases nationwide. Her name appeared in legal treatises on constitutional law. Her opinions were cited in law school classrooms. Her work had sent 47 law enforcement officers to federal prison for civil rights violations. She was feared by police unions and respected by civil rights organizations. When the opportunity came to be nominated to the federal bench, she was 48 years old. The nomination had come from President Obama. She had been confirmed by the Senate in a voice vote with bipartisan support. She had taken the oath to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. She had understood in that moment that the oath was not ceremonial, it was sacred. On the federal bench for 12 years, she had authored 73 published opinions. 31 of those opinions had reversed convictions based on Fourth Amendment violations. 24 had resulted in criminal charges being filed against law enforcement officers for constitutional abuses. Her courtroom was known throughout the federal system as a place where constitutional rights were not theoretical, they were enforced with precision and without exception. She had never lost sight of her father's 17 stops. She had never forgotten the lesson her mother had taught her. Rules protected people only if they were enforced without bias, and bias was endemic to a system that allowed officers to operate without accountability. Judge Maya Sterling lived in a quiet neighborhood in a historic area of the city. The area had been gentrifying slowly over the past decade. The homes were grand, dating from the early 20th century, built during an era when wealth and architecture had gone hand in hand. Her brownstone was a 4-story structure with a small front porch, detailed molding, and original windows. She had purchased it 5 years earlier and had restored it meticulously. 3 years ago, after a series of package thefts in the neighborhood, she had installed a doorbell camera, not out of paranoia, out of practicality. The camera was motion-activated and recorded continuously. It was monitored through a smartphone app. It had captured countless deliveries, neighbors passing by, the ordinary movement of residential life. At 7:14 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in June, Judge Maya Sterling stepped outside her front door. She was wearing black joggers, a gray hoodie, and running shoes. She had applied sunscreen to her face. She had charged her phone. She was preparing for a 6-mile walk along the route she had been walking 3 times a week for the past 5 years. She knew every street, she knew every intersection, she knew the neighborhoods. She had never encountered a problem. She had never expected to encounter one on her own street, on her own morning, in front of her own home. At 7:16 a.m., Officer Raymond Foster turned onto her block.
Officer Raymond Foster was 39 years old, 14 years on the police force, 12 of those years in this district. He had issued approximately 3,000 citations. He had made approximately 400 arrests. He had never been disciplined for misconduct. He had also never been investigated for patterns of bias in his stops, which suggested either that his bias was invisible to the department or that no one had been looking closely enough. He was a product of the district. His father had been police. His grandfather had been police. The badge was family. The assumptions embedded in the department were his assumptions. The patterns that went unquestioned were patterns he did not question. At 7:16 a.m., Officer Foster was conducting a morning patrol, routine procedure, rolling slowly through the neighborhood, checking for anything out of the ordinary, anything that disrupted the pattern, anything that did not fit his understanding of what belonged. He saw Judge Maya Sterling walking down the sidewalk in front of her own home. She was black. She was alone. She was walking in a neighborhood where not everyone lived. The capulation happened instantly in his mind. She did not fit. Therefore, she required explanation. He slowed his vehicle. He did not approach with urgency or caution. He approached with certainty, the certainty of someone who had never been questioned. He rolled to a stop directly beside her and exited his vehicle. The Bodycam activated as he stepped out. The image showed Judge Sterling from behind initially. She was walking at a steady pace. Her hands were at her sides. Her posture was upright. Her breathing was steady. She was not running. She was not moving furtively. She was not displaying any behavior that suggested criminal intent. She was simply walking. "Excuse me," Officer Foster called out. His voice was not aggressive. It was neutral on the surface, but there was authority embedded in it. Judge Sterling turned. She did not approach him. She stood and waited. Her hands remained visible. Her posture remained open. She had been trained in law, not in police procedures, but she understood how power dynamics worked. Officer Foster walked toward her. The Bodycam captured the approach. Less than a meter now. The distance was narrowing. Invasion of space. Standard tactic. The kind of thing officers did to establish dominance in an encounter. "There's been a report of a burglary in progress in this neighborhood," Officer Foster said. His words were official, framed as information, but they were actually an accusation. "I'm going to need to ask you some questions." "What address?" Judge Sterling asked. Her voice was calm, professional.
the voice of someone used to courtrooms and precise language. "I'm asking the questions here," Officer Foster said. His response was immediate and defensive. He did not like being questioned. He did not like precision. "I live here," Judge Sterling said. She gestured to the brownstone behind her. "This address. If there's a burglary, it's not at my home. I just stepped out my front door 30 seconds ago." Officer Foster looked at the address on her home. He looked back at Judge Sterling. His expression did not change, but his calculation did. The disbelief was written across his face in invisible ink that the body cam would later make visible. "Where do you actually live?" he asked. The question was phrased to suggest she was lying. "I live there," Judge Sterling said. She pointed directly to her front door. The door was red. The house number was clearly visible. "That brownstone. That is my address. That is my home. I have lived here for 5 years." Officer Foster did not believe her. The disbelief was absolute. A black woman in a nice neighborhood, claiming to own the house, making excuses about just stepping out the door. None of it fit his narrative of how ownership looked. "Do you have proof?" he asked. The question was rhetorical. It was an accusation. It was him asking her to prove something that should never have been questioned. "I don't need to provide proof that I live in my own home," Judge Sterling said. Her voice remained calm, but something had shifted in her tone. It had become legal, precise, educational. "If you received a report of a burglary, you need to investigate the address where the burglary was reported. You need to have specific information about a specific location. You cannot stop every person you see on the street based on their presence in a neighborhood." "You're being evasive," Officer Foster said. His frustration was rising. She was not complying with the unspoken rule that when he asked questions, people answered them. When he asserted authority, people submitted to it. "I'm being factual," Judge Sterling said. "I live at this address. I've just stepped outside my door for my morning walk, and your stop has no legal basis. It violates the Fourth Amendment." Officer Foster stepped closer. The body cam recorded the invasion, the physical pressure being applied through proximity, through the narrowing of space, through the assertion that her personal boundary could be crossed. "You need to provide identification," Officer Foster said. His hand had moved toward his belt, toward his ticket book, toward his authority. "I don't," Judge Sterling said. "Not in my own neighborhood, not on the sidewalk in front of my own home, and not without a legal reason. You need to articulate reasonable suspicion based on specific, articulable facts. Being black in a neighborhood is not reasonable suspicion. Walking is not reasonable suspicion. Existing in public space is not reasonable suspicion." Officer Foster's jaw tightened. The body cam captured the micro-expression, the moment where he encountered resistance, the moment where someone was telling him no. "You're obstructing," Officer Foster said. His voice had risen slightly. "You're interfering with a police investigation." "There is no investigation at my address," Judge Sterling said. "You have not conducted any investigation. You have received a report of a burglary at an unknown address and have decided to stop me based on my appearance. That is not an investigation. That is racial profiling." Officer Foster did not know he was speaking to a federal judge. He did not know that every word he was speaking was being recorded on 2 cameras, his body cam and her doorbell camera. He knew only that he was being questioned about his authority. He knew only that someone was contradicting him, and that was intolerable to him.
"Put your hands where I can see them," Officer Foster said. His hand moved to his belt. His demeanor shifted from casual to controlled threat. "My hands are visible," Judge Sterling said. Her hands were at her sides. They had been visible the entire time. "They are exactly where you can see them." "I'm going to ask you one more time," Officer Foster said. "Put your hands where I can see them." Judge Sterling did not move. Her hands did not shift.
Her posture did not change. She was exercising her right to refuse an illegal order. She was exercising the right she had spent her entire career defending. "This is your last warning," Officer Foster said. "You need to comply, now." "I'm not complying with an illegal order," Judge Sterling said, "and you need to step back and cease this stop. You are violating my constitutional rights." Officer Foster did not step back. He stepped forward. His hand went to his radio. The Bodycam continued recording. The doorbell camera continued recording. Everything was being captured. Every word, every movement, every violation. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12, he said. His voice was official now. He was making it official. "I have a non-compliant individual at Oak and 19th Street. Possible suspect in the burglary report I mentioned. She's refusing to provide identification. She's being evasive about her presence in the neighborhood." The radio crackled. A voice from dispatch asked for clarification. "Female, black, mid-50s, Officer Foster said. He was reading her from the street to the entire dispatch center. He was making her a suspect in a dispatch record. He was creating official documentation of racial profiling. Possibly casing homes for future burglary, refusing to cooperate, non-compliant." The radio voice crackled back. "Copy that. Backup is en route to your location." Judge Sterling was standing on the sidewalk in front of her own home in broad daylight at 7:20 a.m., being described to the police department as a burglary suspect based solely on her presence on the street, based solely on her race. The Bodycam continued recording. The doorbell camera continued recording. Everything was being documented for posterity. "You're describing me to dispatch as a suspect," Judge Sterling said. "Based on what? I've done nothing. I'm standing on a public sidewalk in front of my own home. I have not moved. I have not acted suspiciously. The only thing that makes me a suspect in your mind is the color of my skin." "You're being detained," Officer Foster said. His hand went to his handcuffs. The metal was visible, shiny, official, a symbol of authority that he was about to deploy. "Detained for what?" Judge Sterling asked. "What is the legal basis for detention? The Fourth Amendment requires that detention be based on reasonable suspicion that a person has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a crime. What crime am I suspected of? What specific facts support that suspicion?" Officer Foster was not listening. He had moved past listening. He had moved past the point where legal argument mattered. He had moved into the space where authority was being asserted, regardless of legality, regardless of constitutionality, regardless of the fact that he was being recorded. "Turn around," Officer Foster said. His voice was lower now, controlled, the voice of someone exercising power. "No," Judge Sterling said. She did not move. Officer Foster moved forward and grabbed her arm. The Bodycam captured the moment precisely, the moment where a police officer's hands were placed on a woman who was doing nothing wrong, on her own street, in front of her own home, the moment where his fingers closed around her arm, the moment where force was applied. "You're assaulting me," Judge Sterling said. Her voice remained calm, but something had hardened in it. It was no longer educational. It was no longer explaining the law. It was stating fact. "You are violating my constitutional rights under color of law. I am documenting everything you're doing, everything you are saying, and I will be filing charges against you." Officer Foster did not release her. He turned her forcibly around. He pulled her hands behind her back. He applied handcuffs. The metal closed around her wrists with an audible click. 2 clicks, 1 for each wrist. The Bodycam recorded everything. The doorbell camera recorded everything. There was now irrevocable documentation of what had occurred. A neighbor emerged from a home across the street. Her name was Patricia Johnson. She had lived in the neighborhood for 7 years. She knew Judge Sterling. They had spoken at neighborhood association meetings. She knew who she was. Then another neighbor emerged, then another. People were now watching a woman being handcuffed on her own porch, while an officer stood over her with complete certainty. People were now witnessing the moment where power operated without accountability.
"What's her crime?" Patricia Johnson called out. Her voice carried across the street. Officer Foster did not answer her. He was not accountable to neighbors. He did not need to explain himself to civilians. He was walking Judge Sterling to his vehicle. Her hands were cuffed behind her back. Her wrists were held. She was being placed in the back of a police car in full view of the neighborhood, in full view of witnesses, in full view of her home. The body cam was still recording.
Officer Foster had driven approximately 3 miles when Judge Sterling spoke. Her voice was still calm, still controlled, but it carried the weight of federal authority, the weight of 22 years defending constitutional law, the weight of authority earned through knowledge, not asserted through power. "My name is Judge Maya Sterling," she said. "I am a judge on the United States District Court for the Eastern District. I was appointed to the bench in 2012. I have been serving in that capacity for 12 years. I was arrested without probable cause. I was detained without reasonable suspicion. I was handcuffed in front of my neighbors while standing in front of my own home. I was transported in a police vehicle. Everything you did was recorded on my doorbell camera and your own body cam." Officer Foster's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The body cam was still recording. It had been recording the entire time. Every word he had spoken to dispatch, every movement he had made, every violation he had committed. "You're claiming to be a judge?" Officer Foster said. His voice had changed. It was smaller. It was no longer certain. "I'm not claiming," Judge Sterling said. "I am a judge. Federal District Court. Judge Maya Sterling. Badge number. Actually, judges don't have badge numbers, but my judicial identification number is 4782. I have been since 2012. I have overturned 43 convictions based on Fourth Amendment violations committed by officers like you, and I know exactly what you've done. I know exactly what you said. I know exactly how you violated my constitutional rights." Officer Foster did not speak. He was driving. He was calculating. He was understanding in real time that he had made a catastrophic error, an irreversible error, an error that was being recorded, an error that would be examined by federal prosecutors, an error that would be analyzed by judges, an error that would end his career. When they arrived at the police station at 8:12 a.m., the atmosphere changed immediately. Officer Foster was instructed by his supervisor to immediately remove the handcuffs. A supervisor had learned who was in the back of the vehicle, not through Officer Foster's explanation, through Judge Sterling's identification. The handcuffs were removed. Judge Sterling's wrists were examined. There were marks, bruises, evidence of the force that had been applied. The body cam captured the marks. The doorbell camera had captured the entire arrest from the moment it began. Judge Sterling was processed for her own arrest. The paperwork was filled out. The charges were listed: loitering, obstruction of an investigation, resisting arrest. The lies were documented in the police report. Officer Foster had written that Judge Sterling had been evasive, that she had resisted, that she had interfered with his investigation. Then a captain arrived. His name was Captain Michael Rodriguez. He had tried a case in Judge Sterling's courtroom 2 years earlier, a civil rights case where a police officer had been accused of assault. Judge Sterling had convicted the officer. Captain Rodriguez understood immediately that a federal judge had just been arrested by one of his officers, that a federal judge had just been processed as a criminal suspect, that a federal judge was sitting in a holding cell. He walked directly to the holding area and released her. "I apologize, Your Honor," Captain Rodriguez said. His voice was formal. His demeanor had changed completely. "An apology is not sufficient," Judge Sterling said. Her voice was still calm, still controlled, but there was ice in it now, ice and authority.
I will be filing a federal civil rights complaint with the Department of Justice. I will be filing with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I will be retaining counsel regarding civil litigation against Officer Foster, this department, and the municipality. She walked out of the police station at 9:47 a.m. She had been in custody for 1 hour and 31 minutes. The body cam footage had captured all of it. The doorbell camera footage had captured the arrest. Everything was documented.
By 11 a.m., the Department of Justice had been notified through official channels. By 1 p.m., the Federal Bureau of Investigation had been contacted. By 3 p.m., federal investigators were reviewing the body cam footage and the doorbell camera footage simultaneously. What they found was undeniable. An unlawful stop based on no articulated reasonable suspicion, an unlawful detention that had lasted nearly 2 hours, handcuffing without probable cause, a false arrest record, all of it recorded from multiple angles, all of it documented, all of it legally indefensible. Internal Affairs opened an investigation immediately. They did not conduct a careful, methodical review. They conducted an urgent investigation that lasted 3 days. By the 3rd day, the findings were complete and undeniable. An unlawful stop, an unlawful detention, unlawful handcuffing, false arrest, all violations of constitutional law, all violations of department policy, all violations of basic decency. By day 5, Officer Raymond Foster was terminated, not suspended pending investigation, not placed on administrative leave, terminated. His badge was removed from his person, his credentials were revoked, his access to the station was rescinded, his employment record was marked with cause. The Department of Justice filed federal charges: false imprisonment under color of law, deprivation of rights under color of law, civil rights violations. Each charge carried potential sentences of up to 15 years. The charges were filed in federal court. They were prosecution by the highest authority in the land. Judge Maya Sterling retained counsel. She selected one of the most prominent civil rights attorneys in the nation. Civil rights litigation was filed against Officer Raymond Foster individually, against the police department, and against the municipality as the entity responsible for his actions. The case was not complex in its legal components. The evidence was undisputable. The body cam had captured everything. The doorbell camera had captured everything. Video evidence from 2 independent sources corroborated the violations. The police report had documented lies. The dispatch recording had captured the moment when Judge Sterling was described as a burglary suspect to the entire department. The discovery phase revealed additional information that changed everything. Officer Foster's history was examined: 118 traffic stops and pedestrian stops over 4 years. 89 of those stops involved people of color. 63 of those stops had resulted in citations or arrests. Of those arrests, 29 had been for crimes that had been impossible to prove in court. Charges had been dropped. Cases had been dismissed. Innocent people had been arrested by Officer Foster based on his profiling.